EXCELcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Kuskiski, and today I have a very special guest, Britt Baron, who is an actor, an SMTD Theater and Drama alum, and one of the main cast members of the new hit television series on Netflix, Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. So welcome, Britt. Thank you so much for making some time to talk with us today.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
It's great to have you back on campus. You'll be working with some students later today. We have a little bit of time to talk about sort of your journey and your career, but we have to talk about Glow for just a moment because you're great on the show.
Thank you.
It's a really, for those who've not seen the show, I think it's just a wonderful series. And it certainly is sort of a breakout, I think, for you, a breakout role. You have a very interesting sort of arc on this, at least on the first season, and I'm sure moving forward as well. Can you talk a little bit about, for those who don't know the show, the sort of what it is as a show and the structure?
Sure.
Yep.
So it's a show based in 1986, so it's very 80s. It's 10 episodes, 30-minute comedy, and it's produced by Jenji Kohan, who did Orange is the New Black and Weeds. So it's similar because it's an ensemble cast of 14 women and Mark Maron, who's our coach. And it's inspired by the true story that happened in the 80s of these women who knew nothing about wrestling, basically taught themselves, and created this kind of weird, campy phenomenon of this Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling television show that really took off. So it's loosely inspired by, I would say. But yeah, it's a really fun, I think, quick watch, very bingeable show.
It's definitely bingeable.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the ensemble cast and nature, and certainly you mentioned Orange is the New Black. I think there's a similar ethos in that there are many layers to the narrative, and each of the cast members, each of the characters has a really important part to play, frankly. And we're not going to spoil what happens with your character, Justine Biaggi, but she has this really interesting arc that's really critical to the overall narrative. So can you talk a little bit about what it's like walking into that as an actor? I mean, how much of the character's arc did you know before you started shooting? How much of it evolved throughout the series? And how did you kind of work with your castmates as an ensemble throughout that process of unveiling those different layers of the story?
I think going into Glow, I was nervous because this was my first big television role, and I feel I have a lot of theater experience and training, and I feel confident there. But in front of the camera, I felt a little bit more like I don't really know what I'm doing. But we trained for 4 weeks as a cast, so we really got to know each other through the wrestling training, which is very vulnerable and can be uncomfortable and frustrating at times. So to see one another get frustrated with a move, or I think all of us cried at one point, honestly, because it's frustrating and vulnerable and embarrassing. And then we all would cheer each other on. And so by the first day of training, I already felt so close to these girls. And Jen Houston, who casted the show, who casted Orange and Girls on HBO, did a wonderful job. I think they really like to cast a lot of women who don't necessarily have a ton of theater or film experience. So this was a big breakout project for a lot of the cast. Yeah. I think I was really apprehensive about being on a cast of 14 women because it can be, especially in Los Angeles, it can be so catty and competitive. And it was amazing to be with all of these really supportive women, and we're all so different and unique, and that's part of what I think makes Glow so interesting as a television show, because every character is very different.
That's right.
So I think as a whole, I don't know, we just ended up meshing so well together, and we're so supportive. So I felt very comfortable on set in a way that I don't think I would have necessarily if I had just walked into like a family sitcom or a different type of show. And in terms of my storyline, I knew before we started shooting, the showrunners had met with me and told me, and they expressed that they didn't want me to tell any of the other girls, and they didn't want me to tell Mark Maron. So in a way, I was mirroring Justine's experience. You know, I had like this secret alternative motive for why I was there that no one else knew, and I felt like I was keeping this secret from my friends in a way. But it worked out really wonderful, I think. It's good that Mark didn't know, because it shouldn't be affecting his performance. But thank God they told me, because it would have been awful at episode 9 to be like, and by the way. So thank God, because I could play that then the whole season, which helped.
Yeah, that's great. So you've got ensemble cast. You're shooting for. You've got a month of training before you actually start shooting. You're working together and developing those skills, and then you're shooting for how many weeks? 12 weeks, 14 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, we shot from. We started training in August, and then we finished shooting right before Christmas.
Okay.
And this year it's like a month later, but
I see.
it's pretty quick.
And that's great. Well, and one thing that you hinted at is we might have another season of Glow coming, which is exciting.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So, okay, so it sounds like it's an amazing kind of fast-paced experience. Can you talk about, let's just back up a little bit and talk about how you ended up on Glow. I mean, was it a typical audition that you just heard about? Did you hear it through some other channel? Like, what was the pathway for you to get on the show?
It was like any other audition. I mean, through my manager, I got an email, this is the appointment, this is the show. I do remember in the email it said, this is the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, it's a real thing. No, seriously, look it up. And it had a YouTube link to the 80s like opening of Glow. And so I went down this YouTube rabbit hole, and if anyone has looked up Glow on YouTube, it's crazy. It's like very 80s. They had blow torches, and they had like crazy skits in between wrestling. So I knew that it was going to be an interesting kind of different show. And in the audition I was given scenes to do like any other audition, but we were also given these wrestling monologues to do in our wrestling characters. So, which I think worked to my benefit because it's very theatrical. Wrestling is it's over the top, and you have a very specific character, and you can be very physical, and I grew up as a dancer, so I felt like all of that worked in my favor a little bit. So it was different in the sense that most auditions in LA, you walk into a little room and you speak very softly, in a scene, and then you walk out. And so this was like over the top, and I had to be this like punk rocker, and I was doing crazy kicks, and they didn't want us to wear any makeup. They wanted us in all like workout gear, nothing fancy. So I think Jenji really looks for real women on her. She doesn't, we were told don't lose weight, like just be you, which is very rare in Los Angeles. So it was a unique project, but it came like any other audition. So I didn't really think that much of it. When I got the call that I got it, I was like, what did I get? What? Oh, that's, you go on a lot of auditions and you just become desensitized in a way to save your heart.
Yeah, I imagine you have to, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. Your sort of journey from your time here at school to Glow. Did you go out to Los Angeles right away? And sort of what was your experience? Were there sort of ups and downs on that journey? Were there moments where you felt frustrated? I'm just curious, sort of what that's like. Yeah.
I had met my agent went to Michigan, so she came graduation weekend to a performance. She saw me there and started sending me out. So I moved to Los Angeles the summer after I graduated, only because I have no family there. I'm from Connecticut, the East Coast, and so it felt like it was the farthest away, and it was going to be the hardest city. So my mom really pushed me. She's like, do it now while you're young. If it doesn't work out, that's fine. You can always come back to New York. So I went out there, and I just started auditioning, and I found my agent, or my manager, pretty quickly, and the first thing I booked was a theater show at a little theater in Burbank, but it led to a lot of things for me, and it kind of just snowballed. But there are, in this career, and I know there will continue to be for me, it's just ups and downs, no matter how high up you are in Hollywood, as an actor. It's a roller coaster. So sometimes you're like booking a ton and working nonstop, and other times you're like, how do I fill my day? So you have to make peace with that, I think, as an artist, which was hard for me because all of your life you're in classes. So that was the first time.
Oh, right, yeah.
You're suddenly like, what do I do now? And I think that's what having so many friends who are, excelling in different industries from Michigan. With the 9 to 5, it was hard for me to make peace with that I didn't have a place to be at 9 a.m. every day.
Right.
So not feeling like a total degenerate was hard for me. I think, we're all very driven. And so when you're not working, it's like, oh my God, what am I doing? Should I just give up?
Yeah.
So you have to be like resilient and trust that it's going to happen.
Yeah, and I can imagine that's difficult because the payoff, so to speak, the big opportunities, you just never know when they're going to come, and it could be
10
takes,
years,
yeah, right.
like 5. Yeah, you have no idea. It's
Yeah.
such a gamble.
So what are the things that you found helpful in building that resilience in those times of either stress or, you know, a lull in the work? You know, did you find that you juggle other sort of interim jobs or whatever to fill in the time, and did any of those kind of play into opportunities later, or how did that work?
Yes. I mean, I think one thing that I've really learned is to say yes to every opportunity. I had, you know, a friend reach out to me. I have this audition at Steppenwolf, which is like a renowned theater in Chicago, and it was 3 days after I was moving to Los Angeles, and I asked, well, can I put myself on tape? She's like, no, you have to come. And my mom was like, well, if you're going to be an actor, this is a crazy dream, so let's go 150% in. So I moved to Los Angeles, and 3 days later flew to Chicago to audition.
Okay.
And it ended up like going way beyond. It led to so much. I did 2 shows there, which is like beyond my wildest dreams. But I can list so many of those kind of instances I've seen in my career where I've done little projects or passion projects for directors who have later on cast me in big things. So I've seen through my other artistic friends sometimes like pushing aside smaller opportunities, but you really never know as an actor where smaller opportunities are going to lead, because everyone is working and continuing to work. So I've tried to say yes to everything, no matter how crazy or inconvenient it is. I've changed flights many times for callbacks. I've done like crazy. I spent like $1,000 to get home one time to do like, you know, for Christmas. But I feel like if you're going to try and be an actor or any artist, you can't say no to opportunities. And I found my manager through babysitting, which is so crazy. But I think if you make good connections, real connections with people, I've found, at least in my experience since Michigan, people are really wonderful and willing to reach out for you if you are, you know, make a genuine connection with someone.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point. We've heard that story over and over again. And you know, there's this idea of sort of like networking, or whatever word you want to use. It's really uncomfortable for a lot of artists because when we hear that word, we think it's predicated on sort of inauthentic kind of transactions rather than building real connections with people that you want to be.
That's the difference, I would say. Because I feel like I'm not good at networking in that, like, you meet someone in the first 3 minutes and you're like, hey, I'm an actor, so if you want to cast me. Like, I mean building real, genuine relationships. Like, through this I still will work for them sometimes. I'm like working as an actor, but I love them so much, so dearly, that I still will hang out with the boys. I love them. So that's what I mean. When you are genuinely connecting with someone, whether it's at your restaurant job or, you know, your neighbor, it doesn't matter. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people, at least in Los Angeles, know someone in the entertainment industry who are willing to make a phone call if you reach out. So networking in a way, but not in the like cheap. Yeah. Right.
Build real relationships.
Real
with
relationships.
People.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's great advice. So, okay. So, you've got, sounds like you've got some things on the horizon, including another season of Glow. Can you talk a little bit about what's up next for you? Yeah,
so we just finished our 3rd week of training for season 2. We have 1 more week, and then we start shooting on the 16th of October. Yeah. So then we'll go through until February. Crazy.
That's awesome. And then I guess, so we can expect the next season next year at some point.
Yeah, I'm assuming maybe the summer, but they don't tell us anything.
Okay, That's good, because then you can't be badgered about it as much.
I don't think they trust actors, honestly, because we'll like tweet it out and then we all get in trouble in the so they keep everything. I don't know scripts. I don't know what's going to happen to my character.
Oh, that's exciting. That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's a blank canvas.
Well, I'm so glad that we had a chance to talk. Thank you so much for making some time to talk with us, to share some of your experiences on the show, but also your journey. And we'll look forward to watching next season on other projects as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Great to have you.
Go Blue!